Test. Okay, so I'm alive. It's me in the flesh, and it's 10:30 in the evening, and I'm going live because I felt the need to want to capture some some ideas, some thoughts. I'm currently in the middle of like two projects for my school slash career, and I just wanted to kind of like formulate something that people could see. Um, I haven't streamed in a long time. I really have no business streaming because it's so late and it's so like I don't know. I've talked a lot today a little bit. But it's just so fun. It's just so fun what I do, and I have no other time to do it, and I have no other way to kind of get my butt up and start creating what I need to create. So basically for today, um there's a couple things I need to do actually. So, one of the things that people kind of have to do at my level of school right now is like start outlining. So just like outlining your stuff, outlining your drafts, your assignments, your projects, and saying, "Hey, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to do it." And in some ways it's like counterintuitive, in some ways it's like how do you even begin to do that? Like how do you know the steps to get to the end if you're not in the end yet? Like but it's all about learning how to like write a hypothesis and saying how can I studiously prove and or disprove this or that uh hypothesis or thesis. So um in a lot of ways these things vary according to scale. So, like, what is the scope of what you want to do? And then, what's the best way to tackle it? Um, this is something that I've been learning. It's like November 3rd, and I've been in school for over 2 months. Really, I mean, my goodness, like, I'm at like 10 weeks almost, 9, 10 weeks of school. This stuff is tough, man, because it's like everywhere you look, every time you turn around, there's like something else waiting to be done, either now or in 3 weeks or in 2 weeks or in 1 week. And it's just like, goodness gracious, like I gotta find time to like sleep and rest and rejuvenate. Um, for me, I think one of the biggest things I'm like trying to like relearn is like just so many things, just like discipline, like cycleness, just being like I mean, the best word is like routine, but it's like routine has to break down to so many things. Like I need to like work out again. Like I just did a little bit of like Pilates. It like came back to me, but I had to like fix the carpet in the bedroom before I could do that. So it's like sometimes before you can like tackle something in advance, you kind of got to solve a couple of other things first. So it's just one of those things that comes with like maturing. Um Yeah, I'm like 28 now. So I was born in like 97. We're kind of rare. I feel like it's hard to find us. I don't know. Every time, I don't know. When was the last time I met like a 97 person who wasn't like in my family or something? Like who like Zendaya or something? Like it's like Zendaya and who else? Like Jaden Smith maybe is 97. The last time I met somebody was like in 2023. Other than that, it's like all just been like maybe random people I'm like connected to on like Facebook or LinkedIn, but it still feels like a small group. Like I feel like the bigger crowd is like um the the 1998 crowd. Um I feel like even those who are like 30, but it's like everybody who's like 28, 29 right now, like 30, I feel like we're kind of hard to find. I don't know. Let me know if you disagree, but that's sort of how I feel. Um, and yeah, I'm just like a real person. Like, one of the things like being in this semester has been like not working out, like not doing like Pilates, not doing like the core work. I feel like I've been getting like these areas of my body are like really tense. I'm like tense here. It's like wow, like so much goes when you like lose your core, like and then like your back starts to hurt, you ruin your posture, and you ruin your neck, and next thing you know, you're ruining your jawline. Like it's such a problem. I already struggle living where I live because I live in like the Midwest and the water here like messes up my skin, it messes up my hair. Like I did not have acne for a while, really a long time, okay? And here like the water just messes it all up. I'm trying really hard. It's been working a little bit, but hey, whoever's watching, let me know who you are. Um, oh, I used to last time I streamed was like 2024, but even back then, like I would read like a Bible verse or something. Let me know if you want me to read a Bible verse. I don't know. Yeah, it's 2025. It's about to be 2026. Stuff is about to come around the corner. I gotta start gearing up, man, for the next step. Um, I'm in my research studies. I'm taking some classes, so hopefully, um, hopefully, um, I can do what I can. It's kind of cool. Like, I'm really surrounded by like really serious and studious people. Um, they're working, I'm not at like a name brand school necessarily. It's actually not as well known, but like I said, like there's very serious people here who are really like charting their path. Um, in academia, in scholarship, at universities, and just doing their thing. Like, I like how where I am, you find those who are kind of just chasing what they like, what they believe, um, and they're really trying to furnish that. So it's very exciting. I'm sort of in my own right, kind of trying to foment my own like direction. So it's kind of what I want to talk about today, just kind of like where I am in the process of like developing my projects right now. So there's two things I have to do. Um, one is prepare a poster for a conference. It's something that like I'm not, I'm not done with. I hadn't started. And then the other thing is like a presentation for a class. So I was thinking about just maybe starting with the class one because it's just more um oh hi. Hi, nice to meet you. Yeah, Jesus does love me, loves you, loves everyone he created. I'm doing good. Thank you. I had a very energetic day. Um I hope you're having a good day. Um Today was just one of those days that God just lets you kind of see a lot of things and then he like releases you from it. So I'm glad about that. Um, but I do now feel like I need to focus on these assignments. It's a little tough because my notes are kind of everywhere, but I thought streaming would help. Um, uh, yeah, yeah, a lot of things happened today. We had like a workshop, I had class, saw a bunch of people, talked to people. I called my family. I'm like away from my family right now. So I got to talk to them. I got to go to the grocery store. Um, so so anyways, um Thank you though. Thank you. And oh yeah. Rest well. Rest well. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be here uh trying to hash some things. But I hope you have a good night. Thank you. Thank you for chiming in. um so anyways, hopefully I can share my screen, but essentially I have some ideas. I have some things that I want to work out. I guess I do have a screen to share already. I was gonna open Word, but it's not gonna work out. Good night, Sabrina. I hope you have a really, really beautiful rest. Okay. Have a nice one. Take care. Um, all right. So let's see what I can get done. So here we go. Let me open this up. All right, let me share my screen. Screen share. Allow. Yes. Yes. Share this window. Oh my gosh. We got it. Hello. Yes. Okay, cool. Let's make me small. There you go. How small should I be though? Is this better? I think this is fine. Okay. All right. So here we go. So for this presentation that I have to do for class, I know this is like so unprofessional. Like I have to I have to like polish this, but essentially I'm in the process of like developing this presentation. I really wanted to kind of get out in a presentational way what is on my mind because it really has been like concerning me like um sort of like the state of scholarship right now. I mean, I'm taking like a philosophy class. That's pretty good, but I have a good professor because she's like Italian. So so she's kind of better than the average like American maybe philosophy professor. I don't know. I'm biased. I'm also like not not a philosophy student, but I like her. And then I'm taking like a religion class and he's more of like a standard kind of religion professor and he's trying to set up, like, he's trying to give us our foundational education, how to, traverse the scholarship, how to engage the sources, how to perform literary analysis and identify, historical and anthropological categories. Like you can tell from the way I'm kind of like dragging on that it is kind of like a lot. Um, that's something that I find in on like the religious studies, kind of like historical theology side is like you are getting a lot of like interdisciplinary and sort of these like complex methods for understanding um like religious phenomenon, which is fine. I majored in religion in my undergraduate, so I knew the deal. It's like religion is not quite history, it's not quite anthropology, it's not quite um, sociology or cultural studies. It's like when you when you get to religion, you're really trying to like define something that occupies this like middle ground. Um, not to lose anybody, but it is fairly complex, diverse, and varied in the approach, in the assessment. It's really like it's really a very serious like discipline. Like I always love hearing people's um people's analysis, people's assessment, like even when you get onto like these online forums or online conversations, like the person who is studied and has a background and has um training in the discipline of religion or in the subject of religious studies, a lot of times they're able to like evaluate things on like a very complex level. So again, like it's just not it's not this like, fuzzy wuzzy, softy, s- s- softy type of wooey wooey stuff that you get, on televangelism and on um and just like on these like popular religious channels um where you know we're just like we're just like where people are just like restating maybe what they've read or what they've seen. It's like when you're a real religious studies person or a religion scholar, you're kind of taking apart a lot of things. So in my case, very very historically oriented. I see everything as like a effect of like a cause and just trying to identify the context kind of for everything. That's sort of how I evolved. People choose different focuses. Um, like my professor, for example, he's into like hermeneutics. Like that's just like how you read things and different like literary approaches and different like analytical frameworks and you know scholarly paradigms, which is all fun and good, but it's like I feel like sometimes we're not getting the full picture because for me, I just feel like I'm so aggressively like dynamic about my perspective. Like I refuse to just accept things as a narrative. Like I think people are very sold into like just narratives about, structuralism, post-structuralism, and Hegel and Enlightenment and this and that. And it's just like, you know what? Like, that's not my education. Like, that's not my understanding. Like, my understanding is like a lot of other things, a lot of other things like religion, like resistance, like, labor movements and supply chain advancements and, um, civil rights is like another thing that gets like buried under the ground. At the same time, you have MK Ultra and drug movements. Like I was just listening to a podcast with EMJ, and it was just like, yeah, uh, yeah, actually, electricity did come into play at a very like opportune moment where things did reverse in a lot of other ways. Like anyways, it's a lot. It's a lot because even just since the Victorian era, I feel like the way we kind of stack up the developments in society, really, these things do not get a fair shake. We're not really getting the whole story. We're not getting the whole download on like how the 20th century progressed, how the 19th century progressed, how the 18th century progressed for that matter. You're not learning about the Illuminati in college. So for me, it's like it's all about. I mean, I was just telling somebody like, yeah, I'm into like rational choice theory, but I'm like not an economist. And it's just like, well, I don't need to be an economist, but it is like a a very useful way of approaching the other thing I've been hearing is humanistic. I've been hearing humanistic a lot, which is very interesting. So I'm actually gonna like just throw this in here. Um, because that has come up at least 3 times, I feel like in the last week or half of a week. Um, so that is very interesting. Um, and this is something that I actually was expressing to my professor, not in this class, my other class, my philosophy class, like kind of looking at like the boundary. between excuse me, divinity and humanity. And this is just like this is extremely like general. It's very vague um because it's something that you could probably I you could probably um isolate in many traditions, if not all traditions. There's some conception about that. Um whether it's straight cut or whether it's just like, you know, the line is in, the fine line is in the body of a demigod or something. Like, I think it's important because when you get to like when you get to like philosophy, or not even philosophy, even when you just do like comparative religion, it's like people are still comparing like terms. People are still comparing like, I don't know, just as these very old school like structuralist thinkers, like people want to throw around like Durkheim and like, I don't know, just like these classical people, like, I don't know. Um, who are the other big Jay-Z Smith and who's another big one? Uh is Donovan Schaefer, not him. Who's the other big guy? Jay-Z Smith and somebody else. Levi Strauss, like, it's just like, get out of my face with that. Like, that is not, oh my gosh. Like, oh man. For me, it's like these are latecomers. Like, we had good sociology. We had good religious religious uh religious analysis, religious um what's the word? Like religious studies descriptors, I guess. Who am I referring to? I'm referring to like Weber, even like Young. Young had, I feel like, a lot of things right when it came to religion. Like these comparative, like Germans, like they were so, I don't know, they were very in touch with this like humanistic idea of religion. I would even just say that. Um, like I don't even know where humanistic comes from. Like I've definitely heard it before. It's like people describe, like I've seen it like describing like Byzantium, like like basically like Byzantium before the Renaissance had experienced a like humanistic boom. And who else? The Renaissance was spawned by a humanistic boom. But then it's like what is that, right? It's like, oh, it's like the rejection of God. It's like, oh, it's like the distancing from the Catholic Church, like had a humanistic revival of like platonic and classical, you know, tropes. And, to some extent we can observe these changes, but in a lot of ways I feel like people are missing the point of like what exactly is causing this. Um and this is just something that I feel like I just kind of deviated from the standard religion person. Like I really do like, my undergrad professors, they were really good in that they were very like very independent minded, very it's like it's not like they did one thing and they got their like pedigree in one thing. It's like they kind of charted their own path themselves, and it's like I feel like they were my models. I went to very fine school where I got an amazing background that I see almost every day just pay off. Just pay off because it's just like, and I think about this a lot, like the value of a good education, like the value of having a really like um just solid background, solid foundation in what I've actually been thinking about a lot. is um the logos. So the logos is basically, hold up, can I zoom in? Guys, I'm like out of breath because I ate some like a bunch of ground beef. Okay. Yeah, that free ground beef, if you know what I mean. Um, like literally, not figuratively. Anyways, so the logos, right? So the logos, and I'm not an expert on this, never actually did Greek, but um, all right, I don't know what I'm looking at. Okay. Oh, I can invite guests. Okay, great. So basically, like, um, so the logos, right? The logos is supposed to be essentially it's what gives life, what gives the world intelligibility. That's like a definition that I saw recently somewhere. I saw it in maybe one of these books. I don't even remember where. This is why you gotta like write down everything you think and everything that you read. Like you have to you have to. And I'm not there yet because I have just been catching up on something that I was like actually months behind on. So basically, I'm all caught up. I'm like getting myself reorganized. Like we're gonna we're gonna um we're gonna like we're gonna get more efficient eventually. But right now I'm still kind of like in an exploratory phase where I'm still just kind of like gathering the data. Um, but I've been collecting books. Like many of these books are from the library. Some of them are like months overdue from other universities. Like, but it's like when you have good literature, man, you gotta hold on to it until you got what you need. And some of these books, like this one right here, oh, I don't want to show the cover with my name on it. Okay, but this is a good one. As you can see, it's like very huge. Here's the cover. Here's the title. Can you see that? Is it backwards? So, so basically, um, a book like that is going to be like extremely foundational to my education about that subject or that um like scope of material. Um, so so yeah, I mean, people aren't dumb. Logos is rising. Consciousness is rising. Um, so what I'm really hoping is that people, as they wake up, they are kind of going back to not just the traditional, but back to back to being in touch with the logos. And the thing is, like, Christ is identified as a logos, like in the Gospel of John. And this is something that I'm totally ripping off of like E. Michael Jones. So, um, logos is rising, consciousness is rising, intelligibility is rising. Part of that is people understanding the depths, the complexity, the interconnectedness of all the things wrong in the world, and that in a lot of ways, the complexity is just confusion, and that the right way is really much more simple. It's much more natural and intuitive. I think people are definitely starting to understand. Um, Everything's about healing, things about just waking up to your sensibilities, to the fact that we're not just these lumps of flesh that are told to go to school for 50 hours a week and then is sent to find a job for another 50 hours a week. Like that's basically the narrative that we were given for a long time. And I think people are waking up and understanding that that's not even in like the top 5, 6, 7, or 8 things that you should be worried about. And that a lot of it really is internal. A lot of it is like your deepest desires, or not even your deepest desires, your most wholesome like affinities are gonna be for uh family, celebration, commemoration of festivals, of festivities, um, just love at the basic level between parent and child, parent and parent, sibling and sibling, cousin and cousin. This like off the charts expression of just like interdependence and community that right now has been attacked. So anyways, that's my little that is my little tangent rather. So, but anyways, the logos is definitely improving, but I think people are definitely finding themselves. I feel like having to choose sides politically uh and um and ideologically. I mean, in a lot of ways, these different camps that people have been designated towards is just not gonna fly. It's just not gonna fly anymore. Um, People are breaking out of the plantation, of the reservation, of the concentration camp. People want to know the truth. They're gonna get it. People understand how celebrity and fame and fortune and all these promises of the elite and of exoticism and of whatever they sold to us on the TV and in music videos, that it's all cooked. It's all gonna go away, and that we really have to like treasure our own life, our ability to create life, our ability to sustain life, our ability to um be more alive, because that in itself is a spectrum. Some people are more alive than others. Some people are more in touch. Some people are less in touch with logos and with that centeredness um with God. And that's another thing that I've actually been interested in. This is like a book. It's like the Omphalos and the Cross, because I'm kind of in it's probably not how it's spelled, but essentially like essentially like for a long time people have been aware of like this centeredness that is necessary, and then it's almost like up until 200 years ago, 2 centuries ago, that people kind of forgot. um and then you see it kind of literally like almost 100 years ago come back in the form of like the swastika, which probably has a better name for it anyways. It's an ancient symbol because it's like the center. It has a name. It has a name like with a T or something. Or the Tau, the Tao. And there's so many different versions. Like even for me, like uh I study like a Mongolian kind of like Turkic religion, and they have their own version of that too. They have their sky god, they have Tengri, they have the Tenduk, something like that, in the middle of like their tents. And it like directs them to the sky. It's like the source of and it's like that's metaphysical. That's like important to like our like biochemistry to have this connection upwards. It's like it seems like it's a lot more universal. And this is something else, like something that I've said to others, like there's something just like natural. Like it's just like even if you're not Christian, even if you're not Muslim or Buddhist, like people can still there is a way to still be kind of, you know, oriented towards God's will in a way. And that's not to say that that's advisable, because usually that doesn't end well, but it's like if you have that like Christology kind of guiding you in life, even if it's subconscious, even if it's a cultural or um I don't know, mathematical or financial, like there's just something there that if you are in line with it in whatever form, whether it's the way you run a business, or the way you run your life, or the way you love your family, or the way that you build your your community. Like there's something there that is always like akin to the logos. And again, that's not to like generalize or be like reductive about it. In my opinion, there's just so many versions and some are better than others. It's just so interesting because it's like in a lot of ways the exclusionary criteria for establishing the truth is not necessarily based on these like labels of religion. It's more so based on like it's more so based on the logos. Like it's based on like your orientation to the logos ultimately. So it's like that's not a bad idea, but it's like it's been developed, but it hasn't been like utilized like to its fullest extent. Or even if it was, again, like 200 years, 300 years ago, or up until 300 years ago, it's been almost completely like abandoned in modern discourse. Today, the top scholars will tell you, this structuralism, this this universal kind of Mircea Eliade is another one, big religion scholar that people like to like reference. There's another big one though. It's another big like sociology type, not Weber, not Durkheim. There's another one. Like Freud is referenced for no reason. But some of these people who stick out, like Freud, like they were messing with like, millionaires and stuff, getting rich and having money and at the end of the day, they were very corrupt. They were very corrupt in their soul and they didn't, they didn't necessarily advance society. I feel like they actually slowed it down. Um, that's a hard one. It's gonna be a hard one to prove, but there's a lot of evidence, man. People online, people on social media, Reddit, wherever people go, Discord, wherever people are sharing and combining data and information, the logos is rising. Um, and that's just nature. Like that's just like the averaging out of things, the organization of things. It's just always gonna shake out to something akin to God's will. Um, Unfortunately, people suffer. I hate seeing and hearing that innocent people are being targeted, defenseless, helpless, just needlessly attacked, and it's terrible. It's terrible. I hate seeing it, hearing it. I think that um that has to stop, and I think that it's just, you know, it is overflowing, um and I just feel like God's wrath is just not going to be controlled. I don't know. It's awful. Um, so I mean, this again, like these are just like kind of like these philosophical postulations, but I think it's important. I think it's important to kind of have these like metrics straight. I'm about to type up my outline, kind of have here because I've done some work on this, and we have authors that I have to use my presentation anyways, but I'm also supposed to like create like a presentation that kind of leans into the discussion. So for me, I mean, I chose this topic of Christology, and if you don't know what that is, it's like Christology is basically like it's just like characteristics of Christ, the Trinity, the Godhead, uh, the procession of the Spirit and the procession of um well, it's really the procession of the Spirit from the Father and the Son, and that's been contentious. I mean, this discussion of like, I mean, even right now, like I'm in a class on like it's basically on metaphysics, essentialism. And it's just like drawing these like very uh very like particular lines between like matter and form and entities and objects and individuals and particulars. And it's just like, okay, we have to just, unity and composite. And it's like how do we like identify the properties of the 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 substances basically. So this is discussion that's been going on for more than 2000 years, almost 3000 years. And 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 it's still going on. There's a lot of, across languages, across continents, like even just now, like even the people that, I'm like sitting next to in class, like um they're going to be dealing with this for decades, when they graduate and they become professors and they start writing and they start, presenting and kind of steering the wheel throughout throughout their research. So for me, again, like I'm on the religious study side. So for me, it's like, okay, implications, implications in theology, implications in like social dynamics, implications in communities and economies um and in history, basically. So 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 I'm gonna start putting these notes up. Um let me see. Okay. Okay, so here we go. So when it comes to Christology, what comes to mind for me, and that gets me really excited, is I'm just gonna put this here. The is this like um tripartite model of like um I, I'm like hesitating. That's what I think of basically. And the thing is, it's like totally like um totally been hashed and rehashed. And for me, it's like it goes between um so many authors throughout the ages. Again, oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna go. There's Anselm. Well, there's also Bonaventure. That's a fact. I don't know if he does a tripartite, but he talks about the ontology of God. Anselm, Bonaventure, Aquinas. There are others. I think Bernard of Clairvaux is another one. I think he does. I think he does ontology of God. Again, this is like something that I have. Um, okay, so I think this is the same guy, Duns Scotus. Guys, I have to teach myself all this stuff. I'm just very curious about the trajectory throughout time. So I'm kind of doing this research on my own. This is not actually assigned to me. I'm just again like I'm already interested. I'm kind of anchored in like the medieval period, um, which depending on who you ask is from around I'm gonna say 500. 500 to I don't know. Some people say 1400. I'm just gonna go 1300 because by the time you hit the 1300s, you're getting modernity. You're getting early modernity. Maybe that's too early. Let's just go 1400. So that's almost 1000 years. 1000 years is such a long time. It almost seems made up. I'm serious. I'm serious. Like I'm very open to the idea that our timeline is a little bit wrong. Like I think it's possible. I think it's hard to prove, but it's like a lot of history is working off of assumptions. Like that is very true. Like for people to say that history is a lie, it's like, yeah, like, I wanna say, like, 85% of it is, like, just straight up, just generalization, assumption upon assumption. You know, like, yeah, like, we have evidence from books, from archaeology, from, um, different authors, but then it's like you really gotta figure out, like, where did all these sources come from? Who made them? And some of them have a sketchy history, like, some of it has just been, like, dug up somewhere in a monastery, other stuff has not even ever been translated, it's like, there are lies about just, like, the last couple centuries that we don't even know. Not centuries, the last couple decades that we can't even understand. So it's like, it's very easy to lie about the last few millennia. Oh, hey, layman's, oh my gosh. Um, so, uh, basically sorry, I'm a little nervous now, but, okay, tripartite model, the Godhead, long history, has been disputed, and in a lot of ways is side by side with, like, the history of talking about, um, substance and, um, just, like, monads and, like, ontological, like, premises, like, it's just it's very rich, but I kind of wanted to cover that because this is something that I've explored quite a bit, again, I think it's really important to kind of nail down when you're talking about, like, the nature of religion, the nature of belief, um, it's like you can't just arbitrarily draw these lines between the different segments, um, that the, like, philosophers have drawn. So I kind of want to give an overview of that, and then there's somebody else too that I want to throw in here. So medieval, I skipped over Gregory of Nyssa. I know there's so many more. I mean, a lot of these ancient people, a lot of it is just like sermons, but then you get like the serious kind of treatise. My professor mentioned somebody else. Um, she mentioned Concilius. Concilius, how do you spell that? Antiquity. Mm, no, I'm not getting it. She said Concilius as if it's a person, but I don't know who it is. Concilius? Church Father Concilius? I don't know. All right, I'll see you, layman's. Thanks for checking in, dropping in. Concilium. She said Concilius? Augustine of Hippo, Jerome, Gregory the Great, Athanasius, Basil, John Chrysostom. Yeah, I don't need to cover all of those. So I'll just leave it at that. Anselm, Bernard of Clairvaux. So he's written. Okay, cool. Um, and then on like the kind of the other part of the conversation, you're starting to get like you have the medieval, and then you have like the modern people. So you do have these modern people, and I kind of have to double check this because I'm kind of working off of my memory because I think I might pull like an online version, but this book was talking about how Christology was being handled by some who did he quote? I swear, I think he even quoted like Deleuze or someone, Deleuze or Derrida. These are such a random people. Like they're so removed from culture. Like they should not even be taken seriously as scholars, but whatever. The French, some of the worst offenders in my opinion. Um, yeah, and just this kind of this well, there are others. I'm gonna throw in Althouse Reed. She's probably the other one. There's others. There's many others who deal with this question. I'll just throw those in there for now because these are people who are doing kind of this like again this like postmodern, aggressively reimaginative type of uh reformatting of of meaning. Basically, basically. Best I can do. And then there are these other concepts that I ran into. Um, mystical theology, aesthetical theology. Um, and then and then kind of at the end, I was just kind of thinking about tying it back to some of this other stuff that I've done, which is a little bit different. It's not the same, but it's kind of like it's related because it has to do with um kind of this again this like reimagining of the god, well, not the godhead necessarily, of this tripartite um this tripartite division within the soul. um and I kind of took that into modernity when I wrote about this guy. This is like this was like 18th century or 19th century author talking about psychology and Christianity. Um, there's other people. There's like if you look these guys up, it'll come up as like Christian psychology. And then ultimately I connected it back to um uh this psychoanalyst called C.G. Jung, which you may or may not have heard of. Again, not really the most um comprehensive interpretation of Christology, but it does somehow like um reinvigorate this like relationship between three parts. So essentially like ultimately like this tripartite model, which for me is very interesting because it's um ugh, how do I make this stand out? It's interesting because it's so dude, how do I make this like stand out? Like this is not popping out. Ugh, not helpful. Whatever. Um, mm, mm, mm. Okay. Scratch that. Scratch that. I was trying to make this. Boom. Make this a different color. Like orange, maybe? Alright, whatever. So I guess some of this can kind of go in the background, basically. Um, And honestly, it's so important because this is essentially what like the most educated people do, they are tracing the development of ideas over time. And it's really important. Like if you're gonna be a articulate, learned person, you gotta learn how to deal with developments over time, types of developments, types of developments in specific categories, in specific domains, and making sure that you're keeping your logic straight and consistent. Um, you know, I feel like today I had like this newfound appreciation for like philosophy because I was in my like week 9 of my philosophy class, week 10 of our philosophy class. And I was finally starting to kind of understand. I mean, I've been slowly understanding over time because it's like little by little, it's like, okay, I understand. Like we're refining this here, and this is a dispute over this here, and this, that. And it's just like, yeah, like this is pure, almost pure logic that people are like disputing. And it is the basis of like ontology, epistemology, um, you know, um, what's the moral one? Not heuristics, but essentially like, dude, what's the third one? Ontology, epistemology, heuristics, metaphysics? No, metaphysics is ontology. There's like a third one. Anyways, it's somewhere. I really gotta bring my notes together. They were showing us today how to use like a reference manager, and it's like this PhD student was like, yeah, I have like, I don't know, she probably had at least like a couple thousand references and like notes for each one. And I'm just like, ma'am, like I can barely take notes on a single book, like, but it is useful. You take notes on like what each source contributes to your question, contributes to your research expertise. So in my case, I am trying to stay in the medieval period. Well, I am in the medieval. I'm always going back to like the 1200s and like the 11, the 1000s. Like that's the best time in my opinion. Like they had the best thinking, they had the best technology probably. I don't know. Technology peaked, I feel like in 1800 probably. And then it just started going downhill. We had airships, okay? We had energy clock towers, okay? Hey, I've been on this. The Nikola Tesla thing, I've known about this for a long time. And it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me again because it's like for this exact thing, like logos, like you can almost you can almost trace like events, consequences, developments, productions back to whether a society is cooperating, a society is is developing according to logos or not, or some kind of like mitigated form of logos, in which case you're not actually appealing to the logos, you're appealing to something like the logos, which I feel like happens which happens when like you have kind of this uh degraded type of Christology. So that's kind of where I stand. For me, it's just like Christology is kind of everything, but it's almost like you don't always have the opportunity to engage with explicit Christology. Um, and you're kind of sometimes dealing um with like other versions of Christ, other versions of the logos, um other versions of like God, other versions of because when you talk about God, it's like okay, that's like kind of like a concept. But it's like when you talk about logos, it's like the concept reaching down into reality and like becoming like instantiated, which is like what the Aristotelians say, basically. So for me, again, like I'm not a philosopher, I'm not a metaphysician, but it's like as a religion scholar, as a historian of religion, as a hopefully a theologian one day in my own right, I just feel the need to meditate on these very specific variations in what is supposed to be a fixed model of God. And what I mean is that, um, you know, we have a record of how people engaged with these ideas and how these ideas in and of themselves permeated and furnished in a lot of ways large empires and large cultures. And for me right now my studies is sort of on the Silk Road, Central Asia, which is what my conference is about. And that's precisely what I'm trying to hone in on. It's on this idea that you can isolate specific features of a corporate society and identify how and what they're operating on. That's like my personal whole excursion into sociology, into um, Christianity in Central Asia, Christianity going off into East Asia, because these things took form. Again, we have sort of this grasp of how this religion traveled. And even in China, China is not a stranger to the spiritual. They had Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, Taoism. Um, is there another one? Like Shinto is in Japan. These people are tapping into the spiritual realm. It's just a matter of like, are they oriented towards God or are they oriented towards like other things, other ideas, other preferences, other notions of of divinity or reality. So for me, it's like before we can even get to that, or maybe after we get to that, you really got to consider like, okay, on a comparative scale, like what exactly are we approaching here? Are we approaching an image of God where he appointed one prime leader in the city of Rome? Or are we approaching a God who lets you, you know, reincarnate 1,000 times? And it's just like, well, those have very, very different implications, very different uh basis and convictions. So in listing at least these major guys out, you're really kind of seeing like the movement of like the logos of Christos of even just the ideals for the self, what we're engaging in, how we're engaging with God, on the basis of our own metaphysical, spiritual composite, of the soul. um this is something I really do have to like kind of refresh on myself. Again, I think it definitely comes up in Plato, it comes up in Augustine, likely Gregory the Great, and Aquinas, um, Duns Scotus. I have this book by him, okay, Theory of Cognition, incredibly interesting for me, given my interest in like Jung, um, and the Bible. This is another book, highly recommend. Well, actually, I have to read it, but this is like a scholar that you never hear about. You don't know who he is if you could take 10, 15 years in school and you'll never run into him. I found his name like on a Wikipedia page, but he's like, again, like he's working in the 60s and the 70s, um, I mean, he has a bunch of books in my library. So he obviously like at one point um he was populating bookshelves, but now, I mean, I don't he's probably not even assigned in one classroom, maybe a couple in the US, but definitely not in a religion class. Um, and the other one I'm looking at is this guy, um, angelic spirituality. Um, and it has Hugh of St. Victor, John Scotus Erugiana, Hugh of Victor, Hugh of St. Victor. Is that the same guy? Thomas Gallus. There's a number of people here. Um, but all of these people are like engaging with like the the essence of like angels, I guess, which were rather well attested at this time. Commentaries on the celestial hierarchy of Dionysius the Areopagite. So this is just like, okay, yeah, this is earlier. Like, oh, I don't know. So it's John Scotus. Dude, I'm so confused. Okay, these are commentaries on celestial hierarchy by Scotus, Gallus, Alan of Lily. I don't know. It says, let's see, it says mode of wisdom, theosophy, theophany, theology. Corresponding hierarchy, super celestium, celestium, sub celestium, below the heavens. Corresponds with theology. Celestium is theophany, and super celestium above the heavens, i.e., the Trinity, corresponds with wisdom of God, theosophy. And then it gets its other things. The epiphany, hyperphany, hypophany. So this is very interesting in terms of aligning some of these uh treatise on the layer of hierarchy, aligning some of these um cosmologies onto onto I guess some of our like theological knowledge. So he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High, presumably about angels, angelic spirituality. Bernard of Clairvaux, you got the Eucharist. We imitate the ways of the angels which follow their own pathways of ascent, is that they pursue ascending ways to contemplation of God and descending ways to bring compassion to us. So in my presentation, I'm going to try to pull some of this in because I think this stuff falls to the wayside. We have entire schools of thought. We have entire doctrines on how we're being mediated with heaven, essentially, and that it's not just an idea, it's not just a discursive category that we can easily deconstruct. No, it's extremely consequential for, you know, the paradigm of life, paradigm of heaven, salvation. Um, those are the three books that I had there. But um, yeah, um, I'm gonna try to work with those. I don't know if this book has any other psychological models. This is another one that has really kind of influenced me in terms of like understanding um how uh how Christology kind of again like orients us and defines who we are, what we do on a daily basis, how we organize ourselves. Like for me, when I think about like solving the world's problems, I'm just like, okay, let's get back to the basics. Like we don't need 3 meals a day. Maybe maybe pop and rock music and jazz music are not actually the best for us. And no, no hate on jazz music. I'm just thinking historically, but it's like we have this like very decadent music that allows us to like enjoy ourselves in the flesh, but it's like in a lot of ways like we should be rejecting the flesh. Like we should not be pleasing the flesh. And I'm not saying that to like, you know, berate anybody because I listen to pop, rock, dance, you know, um house music sometimes. Like yeah, like it is pleasing to the flesh actually. But ultimately like if you're pleasing the flesh all the time, then you're not ever gonna like ascend to pleasing God essentially because you're pleasing the flesh. And it's like there's that scripture, I forget who it is, like Peter or Paul is talking about how their gods or their bellies are their gods because that's who they serve. Like yeah, like the belly can definitely control you. Like I know I've had troubles with like eating and like not like eating for pleasure and not for hunger. Like I've like struggled with that before. um and it just kind of destroys you. It can ruin your day, it can ruin your health, it can ruin your body, your discipline, your consciousness. Really my consciousness. I know my consciousness can get obstructed sometimes because of something I ate or how much food I ate or when I ate. And it's just like, wow, like it's not worth it. Like all the pleasure I got from eating, like now I lost half of my afternoon because I can't move and I can't think. Um And when people think and when people say like, "Oh, your gut is like a second brain," like they're right. Like they're so right. Like if you're not taking care of your gut, your core, your solar plexus, like you're gonna struggle. Like you're gonna be feeling tired. You're gonna be feeling confused and lost and mixed up and out of order. Um which order again goes back to logos. Like logos is order. Um so So for me, it's like when I present Christology, like in this class at least, like I kind of want to flex some of my knowledge because again, like I kind of researched this and studied this in my own right. And I think that it's not entertained enough. It's not addressed enough in academic discourse. The level of complexity and like the level of insight that not only that it requires, but that it then bestows on the study of religion, on the understanding of culture, on the development of civilization. Like, I don't think it's a surprise that Rome, Italy, France, Spain has like these amazing, tall, complex cathedrals. You see them over in like the New World all the time, even the US. You have like hundreds and hundreds of churches that are just to the sky, the steeple. It's like, yeah, like these relics of Christian civilization do point us back towards God. Maybe God actually wants that for us, and like it does follow a specific kind of rubric, right? You can talk about iconography on like the smaller scale, or you could talk about these massive cathedrals like um ornate just the to the bloom, to the bell. Everything is just fantastically oriented and just like reminds us and lifts us and uplifts us to God. And then you start getting these Protestant churches and the Anglican, the Episcopal and the Mormons and the Lutherans, and it's just like you start going downwards a little bit, like you're not making as grand scale of spectacular um havens of worship for God, and instead you're just getting these like houses that are just allowing you to focus on yourself and focus on the scripture and focus on Christ and you and your relationship with Christ. Like it's just totally different things, like the Puritan sense versus like the Catholic Roman Crusader, like lion's mane type of deal. So just something to think about. Again, like for me it's like I'm past all of this, like, oh, religion is complex because you know Buddhism doesn't actually have a god, so it can't even be a religion. Confucianism doesn't actually, like, in a lot of ways it does, in a lot of ways it does, because when you pull back the wool and you look at it for what it does and how it develops the person, yeah, it does demonstrate these elements of like self-sacrifice and grace and all these things that the church fathers talked about and Paul talked about. It's like, yeah, you do actually see that in these other religions, and in a lot of ways those should be the terms and like the substrates that should be compared. So um that's what I think. I think in this discussion that I want to have, I'm obviously going to have to like pull out a lot of like just like historical accounts. We have our text. Let me see if I can actually find that. I should have it over here somewhere. Let's look for it. Boom. We got, come on. Where are you? Close key downloads. I got this song stuck in my head. Oh, okay. Where are you? Oh, I have all these. Ugh, so annoying. It's so annoying. Oh my gosh, hold on. Where is this guy? Okay, I don't see it. Why is it not here? It's so annoying. Oh my gosh. I thought I downloaded this. Man, this is annoying. Dude, I didn't open these up. Ugh, this is so annoying. Dude, I can't wait to catch up on my reading. It's gonna feel so good, man. I'm serious, man. I'm gonna kill these assignments. Like, you guys don't understand. Like, sometimes I'll be feeling inferior, man, and I'm just like, yo, I'm just a woman. Like, what am I supposed to do? But it's like other times I'm just like, yo, like, let me do what I came here to do. Like, um, real dog. Uh, is this gonna give it to me? All right, let me look for it. Let me look for these things as if I didn't have them already. Okay. I didn't download these. Are you serious? This is so weird. Anyways, probably gonna close this up soon, but well, it's right here. I downloaded it in a zip file, guys. Of course I did. All right, open them up. All right, great. So we got, oh, it says 2 pages. What is this? Okay, I can handle that. That's fine. This one's 43 pages. The Memra, Jewish binatarianism, and the prologue to John. Okay, I guess that's worth kind of Yeah, so that's I don't know. We're gonna have to break that down a little bit. I mean, it would be great. It would be great to just kind of off the bat um just kind of start picking apart the the difficulties with this language, the uh the implications of Christ in these philosophies. So in this class we're doing more than Christianity. Okay, we're also doing like Judaism. So uh kind of identifying what exactly is contrasting between um these uh these different traditions, um namely Judaism and oh, this is so irritating. I'm trying to find this thing. Okay. Sorry, just gotta get the page numbers. All right, we got 28 to 55, 147. So all right. So I mean, the religion of the Dinka. So he has us kind of doing these like semi-comparative um these semi-comparative uh analyses of Christianity and Judaism in late antiquity and discovering exactly like how um the subject of Christology, for instance, appears in each case. So I'm looking at this. The Dinka, okay. A universal rational knowledge and they need to be the Dinka. Okay, so I gotta sit down and read all this and kind of take it apart a little bit. I wouldn't do that really on camera. I'm actually slightly behind, but I think I can do it. I mean, what gives me anxiety a little bit is just like, how can I retrieve this stuff later? Which should be my priority, but it's like then it's like I get a little bit lost because I'm just trying to like complete the reading. Okay. Um, I'm gonna go back to this for a minute. Um, I'm actually gonna move this up here a little bit. I'm gonna call this anthropology. And then um I want to talk about the individual because again, like you have for me, um, you do for me, what I see is like this pattern coming up and up again where people are making these kind of like anthropological models, anthropologies of the soul that continue to like divide into three parts. So the tripartite and and like for all of philosophy, you're talking about rationality a lot of times and what the place of that is in Christianity and Christian worship and Christian divinity, in the endowment of Christian spiritual gifts, the exercise of those gifts. So for me, like one of the ways that I wanted to like expose this in a more literal way, because again, like I feel like a lot of times people go into like the history of the Trinity and the history of, you know, philosophy and it just kind of gets brushed out as like oh, it's just an idea. It's just a discourse. But really, what it really is like it's it's people's conceptions of reality. Like, um, and in a lot of ways, whether it is aligned with the logos or not, it's gonna help you or it's gonna defeat you. Um, so one of the things that I looked at was like, oh, what is that? Personality psychology. And then you have, I mean, you have different like philosophers, William James, Schopenhauer, um, Schleiermacher is another one. You have others like Kierkegaard. These guys are talking, I don't know if they're German idealism, I don't know, you have Kant, I guess. But essentially these people are trying to like define faith and define reason and define rationality, but they're like struggling. So here you have, I would put Jung up here. Well, who else? Who is the successor to Jung? Uh Alan Watts, Joseph Campbell. I guess Joseph Campbell is like the best example. Because Eliade was not, I don't know. Um, you have others. You have others dealing with mythology and um how that aligns with like conceptions of the soul. Uh I mentioned these guys. Actually, these are the guys too. Um, kind of psychology type stuff. And then I guess in my last section, I guess I do want to bring it back to like not just divinity, but divinity personified. Like, what exactly is our relationship to the divinity? Like, again, like, because of the different components to the Christology, the rest of the religion will follow accordingly. I mean, that's why you get things like in Palimism, you start getting things like mysticism and mystical union with God and mystical union with Christ, which has like a long history in the Catholic Church kind of as well too, but it's always somewhat restrained. It's always somewhat contingent on like um sort of like an external kind of uh notion um I wanted to say reward, like consequence, I guess, like an external notion, like an external confirmation, basically. That's how I feel. Um, and I think understanding kind of again like this differences and why is Latin Christianity so distinctive? What is it about it that keeps it in that one place and Christianity everywhere else changes? Christianity in England, Christianity in Germany, Christianity in Americas, in China, in Central Asia, in India, you are getting these different Catholic rites, but some of them before they were destroyed or before they returned to communion with the church, they were like a little bit different. Um, they maybe were not calling Christ God, or they weren't calling Christ and um Christ and God, or rather, yeah, basically just like not exactly aligning God with Christ, but it's like God and Christ. Christ is a logos. The logos was with God. And then it's like rationality. It's like we inherit the logos, we inherit Christ. So again, this is just like a discussion. I want to have a nice presentation planned out. Um, maybe have some quotations, have people consider this, put things maybe into like chronological kind of perspective, and maybe bring in some of that like Aristotelian stuff. Parmenides is like another one that's come up where it's like Parmenides, and it's like he's kind of important in like in considering how philosophy evolved the notion of being, which is also complicated in and of itself. So, um, what else did I want to mention? I mean, I feel like for me, the most enticing part of it is the, um, I guess, like the consequences for what it for Christianity. Um, and then of course, I got to bring in the Judaism part, even though Judaism is not quite a fixed term, but Christianity and Judaism, what exactly are we embodying? What are we exposing? What are we um reaching for in these very distinctive religions that although have like a common shared texts, have completely different interpretations, and like that's kind of where everything stems from anyways, right? When you get to these different versions of Christianity. You have versions of Christianity in Ethiopia and in Egypt and in Lebanon and in Armenia and Georgia and in um Serbia and Kiev Rus. Like these are not exact copies of the one thing um that the apostles established. Like it ended up transforming according to the culture, but it's like that's not necessarily a bad thing either. And then for me, it's like I'm very curious, like at what point does it become a bad thing? At what point does it degenerate? Does it degenerate from being the worship of the Godhead to then being the worship of self or the worship of man or the worship of nature or um the worship of asceticism or whatever. Or mysticism for that matter, like Eastern mysticism, which is not necessarily Christian. Um, and then there's the fact that Judaism claims to have an older patrimony, an earlier patrimony on the sacred texts. So it becomes very conflicting, but um also united in in the same goals, but just like different mechanisms, different methods, different motives. Um, but if that's the case, then that has to trace back to something too. So I'm rambling now, but um, thank you for joining. Anybody who's watching or listening or stop by. Um, I know some of you had to go, so hopefully you can catch this. Um, I'm trying to look at my notes, but it just looks like it looks like I have most of it. Again, like I kind of want to do this cursory thing and talk about how like, the tertiary kind of divisions are not unique to Christianity, but that also like people explore it in modernism, people explore it when thinking about the self and the soul, and it corresponds with I think personally like it corresponds with other like philosophical factors, other philosophical notions and substrates. I'm probably not using those words right, but I have a bit of work to do. I really got to read so I can really anchor the questions. Um, Yeah. So shouldn't be that complicated. I don't know why it seems so complicated in my head. I guess the hardest parts are just gonna have to be like identifying how exactly each of these theories break down. Like even for like the medieval people, like I'm probably not gonna be able to do every single one. But it's interesting nonetheless. Even if I have to just ask AI and just tell him like, can you give me the rundown and then I'll probably do more research. But like even these are pretty like substantial um references to um types of theologies. I mean, mystical theology, ascetical theology, like yeah, they're trying to figure out like how we relate to God and how God relates to us. Um like even today like you have things like liberation theology which has like kind of like a political thing to it, and they're still talking about the same thing, how is God in our lives? How does God act? What can we do to see God? Like this stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, like theology does actually develop out of like our contexts. And in a lot of ways, like God is kind of commanding us to be exegetes of our lives, exegetes of scripture, exegetes of the church, so that honestly, so that he can work through us. Like at the end of the day, no matter what you say, how right it is, how educated or well spoken, like the real truth is going to come from how God orders your life, the kind of order that you adopt that allows God to enter and order your life. And and that's precisely what logos is. That's exactly why Christ changed the world. Christ's um appearance and has like basically took over the world, and then now is sort of targeted and attacked after so many waves like of the Soviet Union and the communism and I don't know whatever other historical events took place, like the Reformation or like the Mongol Empire or the Mongols turning Muslim or all of Persia turning Muslim. Like, yeah, like it kind of is kind of like these waves and these wars that just kind of wash over the planet. And I really do think that there's like this history of Christianity that is actually not fully revealed to us. We actually don't really understand, you know, how exactly history went down in the first millennium, the first half of the second millennium, and now we're in the third millennium. Like now everybody's looking back trying to see like, wait, how long have we been lied to? For all we know, like the timeline could be 500, 600, 700 years off. There's evidence to show that really the Roman Empire was actually right before like the late Middle Ages, the high Middle Ages, and that everything's just kind of been stretched for no reason, or rather in order to like just cover some things up but highlight others. People blame the Vatican, people blame the Jesuits, people blame Scaliger, people blame uh I don't know, Thomas Edison, like Benjamin Franklin. Like how much of this is myth, how much of this is like rooted in like people being commanders of their time and changing the history of truth. Like at the end of the day, like there is one truth, there's only one way and one life. Like God does live through us, like he is a referent, but he's not an idea though. He's like real, he's like actually like pouring out himself to us. And whether we can like articulate it and inhabit it and adapt it, like we're always going to be at like um varying proximities to him. So so it's very exciting. Again, like I kind of have to do my research and my notes. I have several other things to do that's gonna require outlining. I have a paper that's gonna be on God as well. It's gonna it's gonna be a little bit different. Um, Paper on God, a paper on an Armenian bishop from like the fourth, fifth century. Um, and what else? A poster presentation, this presentation. Is there something else? Um, oh, I'm writing a thesis. I have to write a paper for philosophy. Like it's gonna go down. But I'm hoping that I can get a lot of things ordered for myself because in a lot of ways, like every hour, every number of hours that I spend towards reading and educating myself, like I am providing that same order for myself and providing order towards into the future and trying to like formulate more order. And it's like, yeah, that's basically like logos. Like logos is alive. It's in your life. So it's a matter of like, yeah, using the will, using the rationality, um identifying it. And the thing is, God makes it clear. He just makes it clear. He makes it clear in our hearts. He makes it clear in scripture. He makes it clear through the Catholic Church. He makes it clear through math, like through nature, through science, like nature, like I love this idea that like art is an imitation of nature because nature is beautiful. When you see the way, you know, the tree branches out and it's just like the Fibonacci sequence over and over and over, just like from like the smallest scales to the largest, you know, uh, the crown of the tree and the way it just covers the sky, the way the sun rotates around the earth or whatever. Um, And even the way like coastlines are drawn, like it's just nature, like it's gonna be beautiful. The way leaves sprout from flowers and the way petals and flowers bloom, like it's all just like this averaging of like a perfecting formula that is just nature and creation. When it's beautiful, healthy, youthful, strong, um, it's true, it's beautiful. It's good. Like those are the three transcendentals. Um, and yeah, just like appealing to that. And in a lot of ways, like it's available to us. I think it gets really confusing because again, people do not have their history straight. They do not have some of their ontological categories straight. Some people are washed up, some people are washed out. People get lost very easily in just the uh the just like the diversions from the truth, just casted on us by media and by fake narratives and fake education and fake timelines. Like, yo, I'm coming for it all. Like, I don't know exactly how I'm gonna do it. I feel like I'm on track for something. I'm writing a thesis on like Turkic Asia. Not all of it, of course, but like a specific problem, trying to fix and answer the problem. And and this is like just one of those things that I need to do, and it kind of ties stuff together, but it's like obviously like this is kind of advanced. Like I will kind of need to like read a bunch of stuff. Some stuff I know, like the personality typology stuff, like this is something that I did study. Like there is the unconscious and the conscious, and then there's like the what is it called? It's like the super. It's like not the. It's like the super ego. It's like the super ego, but it has another name. Um, and he does this all the time. Like he does like the mother, father, and then like your anima or animus. Like you have like your inner child. Like this is not exactly tripartite, but it's like it all goes together because it's like I mean, he is like kind of like an occultist, so it's not exactly like Trinitarian, but he is positing that there's like a kind of this tertiary function because he kind of defines the introverted, extroverted, and then he also defines this thing called like the transcendental function, which is like what your brain does when it's both introverted and extroverted, which is very interesting to me because it has these kind of like again this like platonic vibe to it that's kind of like being psychic, being psychological. So it's not necessarily correct. It's actually it might be very like simplistic, but it's very interesting nonetheless because you're kind of still thinking about the same kind of internal dynamics of the soul, creates the composite, creates the 30 oh, almost at 2 hours. I said I would do it for 2 hours. It's already past midnight. So um basically, yeah, just trying to like get through um a good presentation. I really want to like take this opportunity to kind of orient my classmates and say like, look, like, yeah, we think we know Christology, but it's actually a extremely contentious, but also like a really very like enriching, powerful, deep component of our worldview um that we should engage. We should engage the way that the ancients did it. We should engage with it the way that Catholics do it, because it's like the one thing we have. It's like the one thing we have to like elevate us from like being like ignorant, dumb, like bottom feeders to now being like Christ, like God, like his angels, like really like inheriting these properties like of wisdom, of knowledge, of composure, of continence, you know? That's probably something I'll bring up if it comes up in the readings. Continence, um why do I have this? Well, this is not even the right terms. This is like the psychology stuff. Yeah, I'm just gonna scratch this actually for now. What is more useful? It's like I'll just talk about like rationality and the will and the passions. Is that it? Something like that. So it's like something like that. It's like there's like the Greek versions. Um, um, what's the third one? The pneuma. Because you got like the spirit, the soul, and like the mind, I guess, or the body. Oh, maybe it is the body. So like you get these divisions. So this is the stuff that really kind of gets me kind of hype. And you again, you get a lot of versions of these when you get to like more of these like Victorian era German idealists, whatever they are. Um and yeah, you're getting like the introspective kind of for me it's less the introspective. I'm kind of into it now, but it's like eventually I do want to move back on to like the macro level um of like society, divinity, ethics, eventually like ethics. People are doing ethics now. I don't know. Ethics has also devolved into like this materialist experiment where people are just talking about like race and sex and gender, but it's just like maybe maybe that wouldn't be such a problem if we kind of dealt with these more like foundational ideas. Like people are really falling into like nihilism and existentialism and just dreadful and dreadful views of the world. um and for me it's just like bro, you're either cut off and struggling, or you're totally plugged in to the Logos. And I think I'll end it there. Um, Here, let's close it off with like um a scripture. Who do you say that I am? Sure. Do, 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 do. Okay, let me share this. Share, share this window. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, it's better. All right. We have Matthew, Joshua, Chronicles, Ezekiel, Luke. Which one should we do? Oh, look. Look, it's in all four Gospels. You are the Messiah. The Messiah. Let's do Luke. Okay. Luke 9:19. They answered, John the Baptist, but others, Elijah, and still others, that one of the ancient prophets has arisen. He said to them, Who do you say that I am? Peter answered, The Messiah of God. Jesus foretells his death and resurrection. He sternly ordered and commanded them not to tell anyone. Like, whoa, whoa. Cold, man. That is not your average storyline, okay? God comes to you and asks you who you are, who I am. And one of them says, it's this, you're this. And then he says, okay, but don't tell nobody. And then it's like gets told to the entire world. It's just like, it's just like super legend, like of all time. Best legend. Okay. All right. So it was nice streaming. I know I'm like rusty, but um there's nothing to it. I mean, it's been a while. It's been a really, really long time, and glad to see you guys, and maybe I'll come back again soon. So checking out, signing out.